Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander's Forge podcast. My name is Andy Bentley, and here at the Forge, it's an area for me to talk about Magic, Commander, and, well, basically anything else. Now, right at the start of today's episode, I would like to say that I have booked my pass for Command Fest Indianapolis, and now I'm looking for somewhere to stay while I'm there. But it has been booked, and I booked it because they finally released all the information. And if they had not required vaccinations and masks, I was not going to go. But they do, so I have booked my ticket. I will be there all 3 days. Again, I just have to figure out where I'm going to sleep. That's it. Today's episode is actually going to be a little bit of a two-parter. The first part by me, the second part by my sometimes co-host, Nate. Because, along with two of our friends, Matt and Scott, we have started a Commander Boxing League using Streets of New Cappena, and then starting now, I believe we're doing it every 2 weeks, we get to add 6 packs from any standard legal set starting now through the end of the year. So, as far back, I believe, as Zendikar Rising at this point. And I kind of wanted to do a little quick deck tech about what I ended up building. Now, I do have to start this with the deck I'm going to talk about is not the deck I originally built with the pool. Originally, I built Quasar, which is the Esper-colored Cephalid, I believe. It's a 3/4, but whenever you draw a card, you gain a life and somebody else loses a life. And in the test game we played, it was just way too slow, which, I mean, understandably, games are going to be slow because it's a sealed format, but I don't know, I was toying with the idea in my head, and when I got home and I looked through the pool again, I was like, I think I just have to go Grixis. So I sat down and pulled all of my Grixis or, Maestro legendaries to the front and realized I had all 3 of the main set legendary creatures. So I have Lord Xander the Collector. 4 black, blue, red. It's a 6/6 vampire demon noble. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent discards half of the cards in their hand rounded down. When it attacks, they mill half their library rounded down, and when he dies, an opponent sacrifices half of the non-land permanents they control rounded down. We have Cormella Glamour Thief, 1 blue, black, red for a 2/4 vampire rogue with haste, and then you can pay 1, tap it, and add blue, black, red, and spend this mana only to cast instant and sorcery spells. And when she dies, return up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. But I went with the third legend, Evelyn the Covetous. 2 hybrid blue, black, black, and then hybrid black, red for a 2/5 vampire rogue with flash. When Evelyn or another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it, and once per turn you may play a card exiled with a collection counter on it. And you may spend mana as it were any color to cast it. Now, that does allow you to play lands because it does specify play, and then it just notes that you can spend mana as or any color to cast spells that have to be cast. But I went with this because, well, Lord Xander is a vampire. Cormelia is a vampire. The Maestro's Diabolist is blue, black, red for a 1/4 vampire warrior with death touch and haste. And whenever it attacks, if you don't control a devil, you make a tapped and attacking 1/1 devil with whenever this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. But now for the real meat and potatoes of why I actually swapped over to these colors. The first of them being Hostile Takeover. 2 blue, black, red for a sorcery. Up to 1 target creature has base power and toughness 1/1 till end of turn. Up to 1 other target creature has base power and toughness 4/4 till end of turn. And then Hostile Takeover deals 3 damage to each creature. On top of that, we have the Maestro's Charm. Blue, black, red for an instant. Choose 1, look at the top 5 cards of your library, put 1 of those cards into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Or each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. Or Maestro Charm deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. We have the Maestro's Ascendancy, which is a blue, a black, and a red for an enchantment that says once during each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your graveyard by sacrificing a creature in addition to paying its other costs. If a spell cast this way would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. And that kind of brings me into some of the other key things I'm trying to do with the deck. Maestro's Assembly is a whole lot of fun with Tenacious Underdog. 1 and a black for a 3/2 human warrior, but it has Blitz for 2 black, black, and paying 2 life. And then you may cast it for its Blitz cost from the graveyard. So with the Ascendancy, you can recast the Underdog from the graveyard with Blitz, attack, and then you can sacrifice it to the Ascendancy to recast a spell. We also have Jaxus the Troublemaker, 3 and a red for a 2/3 human warrior. You can pay a red, tap it, and discard a card. To create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control, it gains haste, and when this creature dies, draw a card. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. It also has Blitz for 1 and a red. But this is another way you can, well, make something to fodder with the Ascendancy without having to actually sacrifice a, real creature. And it's a good way to just cycle things into our graveyard and then draw cards off of the, Blitz and stuff. Then just to round out a couple of the things I wanted to talk about, I have a Professional Facebreaker. It's a 2 and a red for a 2/3 human warrior with Menace. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token, and you can sacrifice the treasure to exile the top card of your library, and you may play that card this turn. Body Launderer is 2 black, black for a 3/3 ogre rogue with Death Touch. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, he connives, and when the Launderer dies, return another non-rogue creature card from your graveyard with lesser power to the battlefield. And, it's worth mentioning that in my box I pulled the Xander's Lounge, which is the land enters tapped, it has cycling for 3, and it taps for a blue, a black, and a red. So, yeah, that's the extent of the deck, and I will kind of throw out this little heads up for the next. The next set I'm going with is going to be Crimson Vow because, well, vampires, and then the one after that will be Midnight Hunt because there's, still vampires. And yeah, that's kind of all I have for my part, and when we come back, you'll be hearing from my cousin Nate. Hey, I just want to take a minute to tell you about my Patreon. I know times are hard for everybody, and I know it isn't easy to shuffle around bills and stuff, believe me, I know that. But if you would like to help support the podcast and me, you can find the links to my Patreon in my link tree, which is always put into the description of either the video or the audio, wherever you're listening to it. It would really mean the world to me. Honestly, I'm just struggling to make ends meet most weeks. But that's it. That's all. If you want to help, the links will be where you can find them.
Hey everyone, this is Nate here from the Commander Forge stream. I'm sure Andy already went over the details of our boxing league, but I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about what I pulled and what I built. So, I ended up building the Grella, the Magpie, and I was a little torn on it because originally when I opened all my packs, I was like, first I thought I was going to end up going Cabaretti using Ginny Fey. Then I ended up pulling like all of the Esper legends for the Obscura family, so I'm like, oh, I should really go with that. But truth be told, I just think I have a better chance of running a Bant deck using Lagrella because I had a lot of very good green bombs and rares that I pulled. Mainly being like Vivian, and then I pulled like the Broker's Ascendancy and Titan of Industry, as well as my favorite card, the Mysterious Limousine. So, attempting to try and pull some Blink shenanigans. As for when we get to start adding packs, I think the first round of packs I'm going to add is going to be from the Dungeon and Dragon set, for Adventures in the Forsaken Realms or whatever. Mainly because there's a lot of good creatures with ETB's abilities in that set, like Dawnbringer Cleric, whatever. Also, really hoping to pull like a Teleportation Circle because that would just totally set the whole Blink theme. Aside from that, there's also a lot of good hate removal cards in there. So like cards that like really care about like something specific, like would be like a card color. And since we're all starting off with like 3 color commanders, there's a really good chance that whatever color specific thing that they're looking for is going to be relevant. As like I'm running most of the hate colors cards in from New Cappena for the same exact reason.
Alright everyone, and that's a little lowdown on the boxing league that we are starting. But I wanted to finish off the podcast this week with confirming that I will be at Command Fest Indianapolis. They finally put up all the information. They are requiring vaccinations and masks, which was going to be a big contention point. If they didn't have it, I wasn't going. Now I just need to find accommodations. So I'm going to start looking at, hotels and shit. But yeah, that's it for this week's podcast. And man, I am just very sore. It's been a long week. Hope you have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. All of my links can be found in my link tree in the description below. I would like to thank Ian Foss and Cody Mulpey of the band The Crypt for allowing me to use music for my opening and ending, along with Nate and Erica Jacobs for making my original logo. And I would also like to thank Christina McNichol for creating my new logo. And I'll see you next time.